Well, till now we have discussed the tax invoice, different type of tax invoice. Now, what we have discussed, after that, let me go for supplementary invoice. The main invoice we have already discussed: bill of supply, bill of exchange, debit note, credit note, a tax invoice, the normal tax invoice, everything we have already discussed. We are clear about it now. What is tax invoice? Now let me come to the supplementary invoice. What is supplementary invoice? When it is required. Because we know that invoice is required. Invoice is required at the time of export business, import business, and for any other trading. But when this supplementary invoice is required, it is not mandatory and it is not required for all the cases. It is only required for few specific cases. Supplementary invoice. When something is missed out, when something is ignored, okay, when the total invoice, the total tax price has not been included, total amount what has been included in the bill is not correct, the more amount has to be added up. So in certain cases, in such cases, this supplementary invoice is required. Now, let us see the supplementary invoice when it is issued. It is issued when any deficiency, as I told you, that it is issued in case of the deficiency found in the tax already issued by the taxable person. That means this supplementary invoice is an extra copy of the invoice. Fine. So first of all, the invoice has been prepared. It has been dispatched along with the goods. The total tax is written over there. But at the time of checking, rechecking, it has been found. This is an example. It has been found that the total tax amount is not correct. There is a deficiency. Say, for example, the total tax amount is 1,20,000. But at the time of writing the invoice, the tax we have written as 1 lakh. The 20,000 rupees is ignored, or the 20,000 rupees has been missed out. So in such case, the another tax invoice has to be present. So that supplementary piece of paper, that extra piece of paper has to be prepared after the invoice has been already prepared. So the word deficiency we have to mention over here. So supplementary invoice is nothing but an invoice which is prepared when there is a deficiency in the total amount of tax which has been dispatched. So this is the primary case where we have to prepare the supplementary tax invoice. It makes good all deficiencies related to an original tax invoice. So it includes all the deficiencies which are there in the original tax invoice. It is prepared when taxable value of goods and services has been undetermined in the original tax invoice. So that determination, sometimes what happens, there is a mistake in writing maybe, in typing maybe, but sometimes in the calculations also there is a mistake. So it shows that it is prepared in case of mistake in the calculations also. This type of supplementary invoice has to be prepared. It can be issued by a supplier as supplementary invoice to accommodate incremental charges. So whatever the extra charges we have to put there in the invoice, which we forgot to put, which we forgot to include, so that amount we has to be included over there in the supplementary invoice. So ultimately what we come to know, that it is nothing but an extra paper of invoice, extra calculations for which already the invoice has not been produced. In the invoice it is not there. So we have to produce another invoice, another piece of paper with only the deficiency amount. not the entire calculations. With the reference of the original tax invoice, this has to be prepared, either the amount or the calculations, either the amount deficiency, mistake in writing, or the calculations if there is any mistakes. So this is known as supplementary invoice. So what are the documents used for the supplementary invoice? This is ultimately, this is also an invoice. Just like the earlier invoice, this invoice also has to contain certain contents. Same way, this invoice also the same paper, same piece of paper we have to introduce, and we have to attach that copy along with the original paper. The original invoice, whatever is there, along with that, that supplementary copy also has to be attached. So what are the contents required to give in the supplementary invoice? So there are certain contents which has to be there in the supplementary invoice. So according to that, just like the earlier invoice, name and address should be there. GSTIN of the supplier should be there. Nature of the invoice, serial number of the GSTIN, the invoice date, name and address of the recipient, most important, as well as the supplier and the recipient. For both the cases, we have to write down the name and address of the recipient as well as the supplier. GSTIN number is mandatory to write down, as because this is a reference copy of the earlier GST. Now, GSTIN of the recipient, the original invoice serial number, which is there in the original invoice. The differential amount, whatever the difference the amount is, just as like I already told you, that there is an example, 1,20,000, the invoice price. The total tax price in the invoice, the earlier invoice, it is 1,20,000. By mistake, they have written 1 lakh and they have already dispatched the goods. So there is a difference of 20,000. We have to prepare this supplementary tax invoice only for that 20,000 rupees. And that difference specifically we have to mention in the content of the supplementary invoice. So this is the point where it is given the differential amount of the tax has to be mentioned in the supplementary tax invoice. After that, at last, signature of authorized person in case of physical documents. See, here the word physical documents is mentioned because nowadays it is not mandatory to produce the documents physically. Most of the time, most of the cases, the electronic device and electronic documents has been used. In case of tax invoice also, the electronic media has been used, where we need not have to send the copy physically. We need not have to produce this in a piece of paper. Just we have to mail it. Just we have to prepare the documents, the soft copy. So in such case, when we produce the documents in the soft copy, the last point, the last content is not required, because only for the physical documents we can sign it physically and send it. It is a long procedure. But the supplementary tax invoice nowadays, at present, we can submit it through online, through the electronic media. So in such case, only the above content is required, which was there in the original tax invoice. GSTIN is mandatory for supplier as well as for recipient. Two parties are there. One is the supplier and other is the recipient. Whatever it is, the reference number is mandatory. Along with that, both the parties GSTIN is mandatory. Three things is quite important. After these three things, the name and address of both the parties are required. Along with that, the place where we are sending is, that is also mandatory to write down. Of course, in the address, we will get the entire documents, entire information regarding the tax invoice, regarding the supplier as well as the recipient. So this is all about the content of the supplementary invoice. So what we come to know, that means this is exactly similar with the tax invoice, but it is a supporting documents for the deficiency amount which has been not there in the original tax invoice. So these are the contents which is required.